Hello everyone. Welcome back to Speaking Spurs and me here and talking all things Tottenham on an evening where, let's just say, we had a bit of a mixed performance. So Ryan Mason back in charge for his second stint as Spurs manager at a tender age of just 31. It was a game really where we needed all 3 points. Newcastle obviously pulling away from the pack, so we've probably done them a little bit of a favour. Manchester United obviously still above us. The draw tonight has managed to put us back up the table a little bit. We're now level on points with Aston Villa, but we jump back into fifth spot. So yeah, that's what we're talking about, a bit about the performance tonight. So if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to support the video with a like, and as always, leave your comments below. I want to hear people's thoughts tonight on what they actually thought about this game, Ryan Mason's tactics, and things like that. So if we just have a look at the teams that were presented to us. So Forster was in goal, and if you have a look at the bench, there was no Hugo Lloris. So either they're keeping up with the theory that he actually sustained an injury, or he genuinely did pick up an injury in the last game. So who knows? Forster in goal. He went to a back three, which I thought he might do because of the players available. So Romero, Dyer in the middle, and Longley as your centre backs. Porro as one wing back with Perisic on the other. The usual double in the middle of Skip and Højbjerg, and then up top, Sonny, Kane, and Kulusevski finally dropped to the bench with Richarlison finally getting a start that I think is well warranted. And then on the bench we had Sanchez, Danjuma, Kulusevski, Tanganga, Lucas Moura back from suspension, Pat Matassar, Ben Davies, Brandon Austin, and Mundle. I'm not going to talk about their starting lineup because couldn't care less. Goals from Manchester United, one after 7 minutes, Jadon Sancho. In my opinion, this goal, defensive errors once again. I think Sancho was given a little bit too much room by Pedro Porro and Christian Romero. The fact that there was two of them on him meant one of them could actually press him and get right up to him, but instead they both give him a few yards space. They don't separate themselves enough. They stand too close together, which allows him to take the touch just outside of him, and Romero actually became a nice guideline for Sancho to bend the ball around into the goal. Nothing to do with Fraser Forster there. And then they go and score their second goal on the 44th minute, and it's the inform man for United this season, Marcus Rashford. Well taken goal. My issue with this one is it's not even a foot race between him and Eric Dyer. I think Eric Dyer has got this massive problem in his head. Anytime he comes up against a player that's quicker than him, he just sits off them too far. So that it's a ball over the top, one that he doesn't necessarily have to win. He just has to go with Rashford. And he sits so far off him, it allows Rashford to push the ball into the space. He still stays far off him. And it gives Rashford the option to shoot. And Fraser Forster, unluckily, on this occasion, kind of guesses the wrong way and tries to force him into a shot himself. So, Eric Dyer, it's time and time again now. It's become... I think it's just a mental block there that when he's up against a player quicker than him, he's so worried about them going past him, he leaves that space there, and it makes their minds up. Anyone with a decent enough strike has half a chance of scoring, and that's what happened here. So I'm really disappointed in that one. He just needs to be more confident in his own ability, because one of the things that Dyer used to be really good at was making more of a nuisance of himself and making blocks. But for this, he was nowhere near, and that's what happened. So... a lot of people were saying that we didn't have a very good first half. And I actually think that's wrong, in a way. We didn't have too bad a first half. I think the issue with it was we conceded very early. Manchester United established a bit of dominance in the first half. But actually... I was watching the game and I was sitting next to my dad saying to him, Manchester United are very much on top in this game. But then all of a sudden we started to grow into the first half and we started creating, not clear-cut chances, but we started peppering away. I thought Richarlison was a nuisance. He was offside a few too many times for my liking, but He showed a lot of desire. He actually got down the left quite well at times. He tried to put balls in. Not necessarily, I mean, he's not a natural crosser of the ball, but however, he was still trying to put balls in, trying to cut them back. And I think the guy is just a handful. He's used to playing down that left side from his time at previous clubs. So yeah, I thought he worked really hard, and if he had been a bit sharper, and that's down to us not giving him the minutes, he could have affected the game even more. And I actually thought Perisic as well was a bit of a nuisance. So we were growing into the game. We started creating chances, and then unluckily for us, we go and create a really good chance. A save is made, and they go down the other end, and then they score the goal. So I think the reason people are saying we had a really bad first half was because we conceded right at the beginning of the game and right at the end of the first half. So it kind of mars everything that happened in the middle. So yeah, Man United did have the control. We took control back. We were doing quite well, limited their chances towards the latter part of the first half, and then we conceded just before half time. There were boos. Protests during the game weren't actually too bad, I think, because people were trying to get behind Ryan Mason and the squad. So yeah, they booed at half time. There was obviously the demonstration before the game, ENIC out, Levy out, banners and stuff around the stadium. And yeah, they did get a few boos at half time. Now, whatever happened at half time, whether that be Ryan Mason and the coaching staff pepping the players back up, whether they got behind each other in the dressing room, I'm sure there would have been a lot of words exchanged, but in a positive way. Came out in the second half, completely different team. And, this is something that we saw a lot under Antonio Conte, where, a bit hit and miss in the first half, more miss than hit, and then come out in the second half and dominate the game more. Now, not to say Manchester United didn't have their chances in the second half, they definitely did. Fraser Forster, I actually felt at times in that first half, I made some saves in the second. He kept us in the game, and as some people were saying, including myself, I think it was a bit unfair for him to lose his place back to Hugo Lloris when he come back from injury. But yeah, second half, Pedro Porro gets the goal on 56 minutes. We create an array of little chances from corners, one after another. And then the ball pops out to Porro, who takes it on the half volley into the top corner. It was reviewed by VAR for the possible interference from, I think it was Richarlison that was on the floor. David De Gea kind of made a half-assed attempt to moan and say, surely he was interfering, but he wasn't. He was on the floor. He was behind David De Gea. And actually, if you watch him, he barely, and David De Gea, I mean by this, barely makes any kind of movement towards the shot anyway. So that was very quickly reviewed, and the goal stood. We carry on peppering away. We're building into the game. Eric Dyer had a great chance that he could have scored from in the game. Just put the header wide. He tried to be too perfect with it, if anything. And it was a bit of a shock to see him so far up the field in that moment. But he kind of wandered up there, which we actually see a lot from Romero. He just wanders up the field at times and gets involved in attacks. But yeah, I actually felt like we were dominating the game. 79 minutes in, it was just beautiful play from Harry Kane. He gets released, makes his run through, does his traditional little look up, pops the ball through into the box. Beautiful. Sonny completely mishits it. I think he's trying to do a similar thing to wrap his foot round the ball to bend it into the corner. But he gets it completely wrong anyway in the way he hits it. It ends up being like a grubber kick in rugby, and it just sort of trickles along the floor. David Hay is going the wrong way anyway. And we score the goal. Great for the confidence. The fans went absolutely mental. And still from that moment, we were pushing and pushing and pushing. And it was great to see. Then strangely, the substitution that we made towards the end of the game that kind of killed our momentum, seeing Japhet Tanganga come on. But at the same time, I suppose, Manchester United clearly weren't dead and buried. They were trying to push late on in the game as well. So Ryan Mason was probably thinking to himself, do you know what? It's probably better. We can keep trying to pepper away, but I need to do something to make sure we at least come away with a point. Because I think after the way the players had worked to get back into the game, the last thing that we needed was Manchester United coming with a late goal to win the game and possibly have the fans turn on what was actually a spirited performance in the second half and parts of the first half. I don't accept this that we were terrible in the first half. We were terrible in moments. There was some individual errors that cost us, but second half we were definitely, in my opinion, the much better team. Manchester United's fortunes kind of turned round when they brought Fred on. It was almost like we had 11 players. We had Agent Fred. couldn't string any passes together whatsoever. He was just giving the ball straight back to us time and time again. So, that kind of helped us. But, Ryan Mason, I felt, managed the majority of the game well. Once he realised that once Christian Eriksen had gone off, I think he saw that momentum was sort of starting to go our way and that Fred was having an off game. And the momentum really turned and his substitutions were good. Bringing on Kulusevski, Danjuma joined the action in the game. Who else came on? So Ben Davies as well. So I think it was Kulusevski and Ben Davies that came on at the same time. And I think a lot of people at the time were actually thinking, why is he taking Perisic off? He's having, actually, in an attacking sense, a fairly decent game. But, take him off. and they did fairly well. Ben Davies did a few nice flick-ons. Kulusevski, I think, needed to start this game on the bench, and it kind of kicked him into gear when he came on. He started running about a bit more, was a bit more effective. And then, Danjuma coming on, I do think helped us as well. He's a player that I wish we'd seen more of. And it was a bit of a weird one because Mason actually vowed that he'd put a team out to excite Tottenham supporters in the programme. But, we didn't really start as well as we could. And I purely think that is down to, it's not that the players didn't want to, but I think you're in the stadium, you're really disappointed in the last game. There was a nervousness about the Tottenham players to not want to make a mistake. And I think that initially is what affected us in the end. It made us make the mistakes because of the nervousness. But I think more than anything, the Spurs fans just wanted to see some fight. And that's what they got in moments in the first half and for the majority of the second half. And, I think had Mason not have brought on Tanganga, now this is just my opinion, I could be completely wrong here, I still think it was probably the right thing to do for our season. But I want to know what everybody else thinks on this. Bringing on Tanganga, if he hadn't have done that and have just gone for the win, and say we didn't get it and Manchester United scored another goal, but we've been showing the same fight and we kept going and kept going and kept going and we were unlucky and they got like a last minute win, how would you as a Spurs fan feel about that? Because effectively a draw is, probably not a result we need to. For top four, we're going to have to be perfect for the rest of the season. We're going to have to go away to Anfield and beat Liverpool. And then we're going to have to win every single game from now to the end of the season just because of the teams around us. So would you have been happier? I know we got the draw, but would you have been happier if we'd have really gone for it and lost the game? There's a question I'm putting out there. I mean, I don't know how I feel either way at the moment. But let's talk about a few of the stats. So Man United actually had 60% possession, so they dominated that a bit. Dual success rate, we actually came out on top, 51.2%. Aerial duels won. They came out on top of that, 52.4%. Interceptions, 13 apiece. Offsides, we had 2 to their 3. Corners 1, we won 6, they won 8. So if we look at our remaining fixtures now, so next up for us, as I said, is Liverpool, and that's at Anfield. That one is live on Sky Sports, 4:30 kickoff. Then Crystal Palace at home, which will be a tough one. Aston Villa away, very tough one. Obviously, they're right on our heels at the moment. We're neck and neck in the Premier League. Then Brentford at home should win that one, and then Leeds away should win that one as well. So the first 3 are probably our most difficult, but actually it's the teams down the bottom that we've been struggling against more. So that'll be interesting. Manchester United's remaining fixtures. They've got Villa at home, which, again, difficult. Villa are very much in that hunt for a European spot of some kind. Brighton away, another difficult one. West Ham away, Wolves at home, Bournemouth away, Chelsea at home, Fulham away. So it's actually quite similar that we've probably got 3 tough games each, or games that should be tough. And I think, Newcastle kind of pulling away now will probably finish in a Champions League spot no matter what. So we're relying on Manchester United now to slip to allow us back in. But let's not forget Brighton have got their games in hand as well. So they're very much still a threat, Brighton. And, you know, in my opinion, I don't think we're going to get top four now. Obviously, it's mathematically possible. I would very much love it, but I can't see Manchester United and Brighton and Newcastle all slipping up enough to let us in. So if we just have a look at the Premier League table now, I'll pop it up here as I move my head out the way a little bit. So the table as it stands, we know Arsenal and City right up there. City with 2 games in hand there after their victory over Arsenal has very much put it in Man City's hands. Newcastle obviously played tonight. 32 games played, 62 points. So they're 2 points now above Manchester United after us only holding them to a draw, game in hand. So they can go above them back into third. And there we are sitting in fifth. 33 games played, 54 points. So we're quite off the pace still. So as I said, there's going to be a lot of slipping up to be done. And then Aston Villa neck and neck with us, only above them because of goal difference. And then Liverpool in 7th, 32 games played, 53 points. So that game against Liverpool is absolutely, we have to win that game. We have to do that to keep them off of it. And then Brighton, 49 points, and they've played 3 games less than us. So very much dangerous with those 3 games in hand. So what's that? 51, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They could be 4 points above us by the end of that. And then, the rest of the pack further down, Brentford, they're not really a risk at all. So it's all those players in there. All those teams, in there lurking around for that Champions League spot. But, the initiative is with Newcastle and Manchester United to get that, with Brighton right on their heels if they win their games in hand. So, look, is anyone's in there at all? We're going to have to be perfect. There's no way around it. Perfection is all we can strive for. So yeah, that was the game. Interesting. I'm fairly happy with how we played once we woke up. We just need to learn to start games better. And that's not a Ryan Mason thing. That's a Tottenham thing. And it has been for many years now. We just haven't started games good enough and we take too long to get into the games. But I think for his first game back in charge fully, he made the right decision playing the 3 at the back. We saw what happened against Newcastle. The players just weren't available. Emerson Royale and Ben Davies are your 2 men that need to be there in a back 4 if you're going to do that. But even then, Eric Dyer is not great in a 2, so you're relying on Longley to be partnered with Romero, and I just don't know how the communication would be between the 2 of them, because actually, although Dyer tends to make the mistakes when he's one-on-one with players, he's the best communicator that we've got in the back line. 1, because he's got leadership qualities, and 2, because he speaks enough of the languages to communicate with everybody. So, yeah, not a bad night overall. I think the way we've been playing recently, and then with the announcement of Ryan Mason with his lack of experience, I think a lot of people were assuming that we were going to lose the game. So to actually come away with a point, it's 1 more point than a lot of us thought we would have. So look, it's a good start. There's games left to win. And I think more importantly now, I mean, I would love for us to get Champions League football. I would absolutely love it. It would be fantastic. I don't want Europa Conference League. Europa League, I think I can handle. And I actually think being in the Europa League, you still stand a chance of signing enough decent talent with that. So I think I could just about handle that. After the way the season's gone, I think most fans would be like, do you know what? Europa League football will kind of take that. Champions League is just a dream now. And ultimately, because I'm not expecting it, I'm not overly... I mean, obviously I want it, but I'm not overly bothered if we don't. More importantly now, I just want to see a reaction from the players. I want to see maximum effort, people running, fighting for the badge. And I think at this stage of the season and the way everything's gone and how much of a mess we're in, that is the minimum that we should be aiming for, maximum effort. And that's what we want to see. Because, the second the players in the second half really went out on top, the noise in that stadium and the way the fans got behind the players, it was excellent. And that stadium, it's built for noise. And when we get behind the players, it's great. When we don't, it's a very toxic stadium to be in. I've been there many a time listening to boos at half time and full time, and it is not nice. And that obviously really reaches out to the players. So when you get behind them, the energy level go up. Like, we were urging players forward to press at times, and they were chasing down David De Gea in goal. There were too many times still where we sat off and we gave Man United time on the ball. Like, Ericsson was just able to pick any pass here and there around the midfield. And at 2-0, there were times where they were just kind of coasting. They were happy to hold on to the ball and we didn't press them enough. So I'm wondering if one of the things said at half time was, look, you need to be more in their faces. Because we were a bit, and there were still moments where we sat off too much. But ultimately, I think had we played another, 10 minutes, say, before the Tanganga sub, if there would have been another 10 minutes added onto the game, I think you might have seen us go on to win it. So, yeah. Just a bit on managers. Obviously, the search is still going on. You would have seen the news come out that apparently Nagelsmann is quite happy to at least talk about the Tottenham job. Now, Ralph Rangnick, former Manchester United manager, and we all know how that went, he came out and did. He was interviewed and was saying, along the lines of, Nagelsmann would be a good manager for Tottenham. It'd be a good club for him to come to, big club, talking about how good the stadium is, and that he, we know he works well under a director of football. Now, there's been a few, off the back of that, reporters and people talk about the fact that should we be looking then to not just bring Nagelsmann in, but to bring in Ralph Rangnick as the director of football, because as a manager, he was kind of out of it a bit too long before he came back to be Manchester United manager, because he was linked with the job at Tottenham. I think during the saga that led to Nuno being appointed Spurs boss. So I do wonder if he's definitely had more success as a director of football. He's very good at that. So I wonder if we bring them in as a two, and lots of people have asked the question. If we can get them as a two, I think it's a great appointment. If not, Nagelsmann would still be a decent appointment, but Arne Slot, there's just something about him that I like the idea of. We saw how Manchester United have developed under Erik ten Hag, and I think part of the reason why they've slipped off recently is probably down to a few injuries here and there, and the fact that they just don't have the quality off the bench. That's the problem. When they make substitutes to bring people on, they're weakening the squad, where actually, in our front line at the moment, because of the way Sonny and Kulusevski have been performing, you take one of them off, you've got Richarlison and Danjuma, and I think both of those players add a lot of energy, and they're probably players that opposition defenders don't want to see come on, because they're like, I'm gonna have to do running here. They're gonna pester me, and they've both got qualities, different qualities, but Richarlison on a great day has the ability to be a world beater. We saw that at the World Cup for Brazil. Danjuma has showed flashes of what he can do, not in a Spurs shirt because we haven't really seen him, but in seasons gone by, in the Champions League last season, which is part of the reason why we were interested in him in the first place. Defensively is where we struggle to bring people on. But yeah, manager-wise, Arne Slot, there's just something about him. I think it just could be a great fit. Plays a decent brand of football. Feyenoord to win the Eredivisie is, it's an incredible thing. Outside of Ajax and PSV, there are no other clubs that really impress over there. So, yeah, it'd be very, very interesting to see what develops there. So yeah, thanks for sticking around tonight. A point gained, I think, especially after going 2-0 down. So well done. They showed a bit of fight. Keeps us happy for now. But yeah, I've been Kieran from Speaking Spurs. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. And until next time, come on, you Spurs.